Hello and welcome to the Autocar Dialogues presented by Reliance General Insurance. Now, every year during the annual Autocar Awards, we like to get some key insights into the automotive industry from people who are not necessarily in the limelight, but they are the key connect between manufacturer and consumers. We're talking dealerships, and today we're here to talk about dealerships in the new normal. And of course, we have with us an elite panel of dealerships from across India, and I'm going to just introduce them to you. We have Mr. Sanjay Bhandari, who's the dealer principal, Bhandari Automobiles, Mr. Sarang Dhande, Managing Director, Max Group, Mr. Shaunak Parekh, Director, Utkal Automobiles Private Limited, and we have Mr. Sanjay Agarwal, Managing Director, Jammu Motors Private Limited. Thank you so much, gentlemen, for being with us here today. And very difficult and challenging times these times have been in the past few years, and I think you guys have really had to work the hardest. So many policies are changing. There's been so many geopolitical issues. How much have the dealers really had to adapt? I'll start with you, Mr. Agarwal.
In fact, there's a lot of transformation happening, in this auto technology. In fact, shifting of different. See, we are all adopting it one by one. In fact, by making our consumers more aware of it. Actually, what is happening, because as you said, that the transition from Euro 4 to Euro 6, because the dealership had a key role to educate the customers. Because there were a lot of confusions happening in that. Yes, I mean, dealer's role is there. In terms of educating the people, making a bridge between the policies being announced by the government and making the consumer understand about the changing policy.
To that particular thing, COVID-19 also played a very critical role. That when the shifting was happening, we were badly hit during that time only with the COVID-19 thing. And there were a lot of things that we were unaware of. We never planned for them. There were contingencies. There were a couple of months lockdown. But yes, together, all of us as a fraternity tried to come up with certain innovative ways and everything to make consumer aware. Better than aware, first to get him to our showrooms, make him feel comfortable that you are with the safe hands, and that's how the journey has been.
So what are some of the things you had to actually do on ground? How did you have to change your dealership?
So firstly, when the BS4, BS6 transformation came, I think the dealership faced the challenges of liquidating their BS4 stock, because the consumer was confused. He was not aware whether he should buy a BS4 vehicle or a BS6 vehicle. How is he going to operate his old BS4 vehicle vis-a-vis how will he operate his BS6 vehicle? So there was utter chaos and confusion in the marketplace. Maybe the government and the OEM were clear about what was going to happen, but it was not. So that was the role that we played in communicating correctly to the consumers. And then just after the Euro 4, Euro 6 transformation, we landed up with the pandemic, and then every day new announcements are made, sometimes for EV vehicles, sometimes for biofuels, sometimes. So it's a confused state of mind of a consumer without knowing what he should be doing and what he should not be doing. And I think we also, because we are directly dependent on consumers, so we need to keep on adapting and finding out innovative ways to explain all changes to the customer and also keep our sales moving in the current scenario.
So what I'm getting from this is that the dealer is actually very, very critical. But there are a lot of people that are moving to this whole direct sales. Yeah, I mean, for example, Ola has done away with dealers. Mercedes has not done away with the dealers, but they are now consolidating actually price points and the discounting of dealers by controlling the stock and defining the rates of the cars themselves. How do you think these new models are going to work, and do you think they're really sustainable, Shaunak?
So Ola is a very fresh example to really quote, and it's something very unlike from what the auto industry follows. So Ola directly bills to the customer, whereas nobody else does that. And I'm sure they have their own set of challenges. But as far as Mercedes is concerned, the dealer is still an integral part of the entire journey of the customer. The service still comes back to the dealers. So it's a new model, fresh model, and from whatever I feel, Mercedes has done a good job at it, because most of the dealers who are holding a high inventory cost, you've got to do completely got rid of that inventory cost. Secondly, discounts have been controlled, so that's a big plus point for all the dealers. So all in all, I think it's a win-win situation for both dealers and the manufacturer.
Do you honestly think that the consumer is ready for that whole direct experience? I mean, like we've discussed, people are buying on Amazon, people are buying on websites. Do you think that consumers are ready for this whole revolution in the automotive space?
I don't think so that, changes have been there. What we never realized that Zoom and Microsoft Teams can be an integral part of our lives. What was supposed to be at 2030, 2040 levels, we are doing it at 2022. Education has gone digital. But yeah, everything comes up with its own set of challenges and everything. Car nowadays is turning out to be the first emotional buy. Initially, it used to be a house. Now the car is the emotional buy for the Generation Z, what we call. And they also want to experience what their parents, father, mother must have experienced. So yes, we cannot take this experience away. There are a lot of things that we can do digital that can help and initiate the thought process for the consumer. Then there will be a physical part of it where there will be test drives involved, where there will be discussions involved, where there will be choices, color choices and preferences, accessories involved. That can come together. That will be the physical part of it. But the later stage, like the financing, the insurance, or you say the RTO, which is one of the nightmare process in the dealership for us, that all can go digital. So I guess phygital is the way. The term and terminology has come up very nicely. Phygital is the way. And let's see how it evolves. Everything is, what you can say, it's a baby in itself. So let's see how it takes forward.
I would only like to add that OEMs who want to go for direct sale model are limited. Their volumes are limited. Their geography is limited. As soon as you increase your capacities, increase your numbers, as soon as you go to larger geography, this is going to be a very big challenge. But this direct model, yes, could help in a certain way to certain OEMs because they can use platforms to generate the inquiries, to have a conversion from inquiry to retail. But that's the limited usage which this direct sale can do. Like I said, that everything else has to be looked after by the dealership. And in large volume game, I don't think it's going to be a possibility.
That's actually very true because, Ola is one side of the spectrum and Mercedes is at the other side of the spectrum. So you can't really say that both of them have done the right thing. But it's a step forward by Mercedes. And like he said, if it's a volume game, I'm not sure how sustainable this entire practice is.
Yeah, that's my question. How much is this consumer ready to go completely digital? Dealership touch feel, according to me, is still very, very important to a consumer today. Mr. Dhande mentioned that a lot of the processes you are now taking digital. So it's becoming a phygital experience, part of it. But how much would you say is the phygital experience and how much is really still the fact that the consumer wants to come to the dealership?
If you look at the consumer electronics, I think they were the first one, the mobile phones. These were the first ones to come on this sort of a direct selling platform where Amazon, Flipkart, but if you see, they've not been able to penetrate very deep into the market or in geography or in the numbers. This is a small segment. This is about 10-15%, but it is a segment which cannot be ignored. So it's going to coexist. I think all OEMs are going to have this part of sale also in their business model because they cannot ignore the 15-20% market which is there. I think this is some people about the minority, they don't want to go and touch and feel and they just want to order because they've already touched and felt it with somebody else. So they don't need to really go and recheck about the product or anything. So they just order directly.
So do you think consumers still have that feeling?
Of course, yes, because I believe the comfort level, if you see from the consumer perspective, his confidence only becomes when he's physical, but it's like, a one-to-one with somebody so that he have a better confidence of, addressing his issues and all that, which obviously, you can have as he rightly said, because you can have some numbers attached to it, but yes, it cannot be eliminated.
So it's an important part. I mean, we have to give that kind of importance to our digital inquiries. I think that's what is probably lacking from our sales team, that they've not moved forward or evolved in terms of, okay, a walk-in is still the most important factor of an inquiry. but digital has to be given that kind of importance as well. And I think that's evolving. We are training our staff to give that kind of importance, to give a call within the first 60 minutes. Yeah. So all these aspects are now changing, and I'm sure digital is always here to stay.
But do you think there will be a time when the complete process will be digital, or like you're saying, it's an inquiry? The inquiry is digital, but then the process and the rest of that is still physical. Right? So do you think that the Indian market will evolve to a stage where the entire process will be digital? Do you think you have that much further to go, or do you think that it will be this half and half always?
Like I said, for consumer electronics, they're the oldest, and they could not convert the entire market. Its only penetration is 15% right now. So I think that's the fate we'll also have to, encounter in future. But look at something which the pandemic taught us was having Zoom meetings. We never knew about a Zoom or a website or a WebEx meeting. But now, once things are normalizing, you see the Zooms are coming down. I mean, you want to come and meet and talk, and you could have as well had it on a Zoom meeting, but we are meeting physically.
Face-to-face.
So that can never be substituted, I think, because I need to know what's your body language, how you're behaving, what you're reacting. I think all those behaviors are very important in a sale transaction. And that can never be substituted. It's only when there's a certain thing which you suddenly need and you know about it that you will go to Amazon and get it, and you don't have the time. I think there's a segment. There's a segment for buying. Both will coexist, but that's a very small segment.
What differentiates, in a city there are dealers for the same brand. What differentiates one from other is the sales team. Of course, the service comes later, I'm not going to deny that, but the sales team. So it's all about the sales guy who can convince better about that particular vehicle. And that is never going to go away. However good you have done your research on all the websites, on all the social platforms, you have followed all the bloggers, and you have still pinpointed at one vehicle, but it's the sales guy that will give you the final nod, yeah, I have to go for this particular vehicle.
I completely agree with you, and I would not want to have that sales guy's job in these kind of times where telling the consumer your car is not coming for the next 6 months or 8 months is his job. It's been really, really, really tough. I mean, shortages, the semiconductor shortage, supply chain issues, shipment issues. This has really affected sales for you all. How hard has this been, and how have you managed to retain a customer during this very, very challenging time is something I would really like to understand from all of you.
I think fortunately what has happened is that the entire auto industry is facing the same problem, right? So the customer really does not have a choice today.
Okay.
So if you can't buy a Maruti because of the waiting period, it's not like you'll jump ship to a Hyundai, because even at Hyundai there's the same amount of waiting period. So in that sense we are, I would say, a little comfortable, but it's nothing can be taken for granted. But this is a massive challenge, and I don't see any solution to it in the near future also, I mean, for the short term.
Again, I reiterate, it's about the sales guy.
Yeah.
I know it's a tough job, but it's about the best one gets it done properly. It's about communication, that how, if you keep on communicating to the customer, he understands. See, everyone has access to all the media platforms, and he knows what is happening globally as well as nationally. It's just about how you communicate. Certain small things, certain small gestures, and that keeps the customer on hold. In fact, for us, if something that has been good to us is that our sales team has really stood up like the rock or the backbone of our company, and they have gone miles further than what they should do. But yes, that has really been appreciable. So, and that's why I am saying physical cannot go away from our industry, at least.
No, I absolutely agree. I would not want to be calling a call center and finding out when my car is coming. I'd want to see, the person there and maybe get angry with him a few times, maybe understand from him a few times. But that is part of the experience.
But this has been a learning curve for all dealerships. Earlier, the way we operated and now what we are operating, our efficiency levels have gone up.
I fully agree.
The way we are managing the bookings now, because you have to really have the art of managing the inquiries, managing the booking, responding to customer issues. I think it's been a huge learning for us as dealers and our team. And this has been very helpful because we've been able to increase our level of efficiencies like you wouldn't believe the way we've become more efficient to handle these shortages and still sell.
I fully agree with Sanjay ji what he said. Actually, the efficiency level has really gone up. We have learned to survive in this pandemic times. Now we are really fittest, I mean, the most slimmest, energy efficient, and, you can say that we have learned actually how to pass on these difficult times. Absolutely right, he's.
So basically, y'all are going greener in a certain sense. Y'all are becoming more efficient, and more value at this point of time. How much would you say that each one of you has had, the pandemic has affected you, and how much have you had to adapt, not only on sales, because what you're saying, from what I'm understanding from you now, the consumer experience has become more important because the discounting is less. The fact that you can deliver a car faster is not a differentiator anymore.
True.
So it's the consumer experience that you're providing, and how much have you had to change and adapt to that and train your people? Has there been a lot of change in that?
See, another thing that we've learned is that a lot of our activities that we were doing in-house could be outsourced.
Yeah.
Like drop pickup. You've now outsourced this. We have reduced 50% of our drivers in our team. We've been able to, become more efficient not only in our sales, but in our non-sales operations also. And there are a lot of things we've learned in this pandemic and this time where the consumer is getting professional treatment from some outsourced activities which we were trying to train and do at our doorstep. Okay. So he's liking it. When a proper drop pickup happens, when a proper, things which we were trying to develop, we've learned how to outsource it and do it much better.
Yeah. Are there any other key examples of change that you guys have made, like very critical ones in your dealership during this period?
I think we've all had to realign our break-even point. So in that sense, because there's hardly any stock to sell. So in terms of your holding costs, the number of people that you were employing, those also have reduced. You would have had to let go of a lot of functions, like he said, outsourced it. So these are things that we've matched up or learned during the pandemic.
The most important thing is that I guess we realize that we have to reach to the consumer now. Sales is one part of the story. In service, we have to go to the consumer. It's not he's going to come to you easily. And who have succeeded in doing so, they are reaping benefits because their brand value has gone up. So that was one major differentiator during the pandemic times, during the lockdown times. We tried to reach as much as possible to the consumers. As we say, we have two types of consumers. One is internal consumer, one is external. So if you take care of your internal consumer, that is your employees, they take care of your external consumers. So even during the difficult times, they did so. And now what we see is a major change that the customers now call you by the dealership. Yeah, these are the customer centric or the customer approachable dealers. So that's a major change what we tried to do during this couple of years.
So basically the consumer has benefited a lot because he's now getting more attention, more care, because differentiators have slowly gone. But do you think that the consumer themselves have changed? Do you think that this pandemic has changed the kind of consumer or the way that he wants to buy a car? Has anything?
Yeah, that's a major change which has happened is that all of us never knew the power of digital. All dealerships across the country have adapted and innovated ways of selling and have adapted digital. And most of the customers now, since they had enough time, have done 80% of the buying decision on a digital platform, and only the last 20 is what we have to do. And so we've learned how to manage the digital inquiry much better, because earlier the digital inquiry which were coming, was going a begging because the people were doing it only for fashion. But today it's a very serious inquiry because he's done his research, and the person who responds first will get the order.
Yeah, do you think?
Fully agree.
Yeah, but do you think like during, earlier we had a surge, the automotive industry was booming. Then we had a dip just before the pandemic. It slowed down a lot. I think a lot of policy uncertainty, BS4 to BS6, the confusion in the consumer's mind. Then came the pandemic, and then all the consumers wanted a car because it became need-based.
True.
Do you think that has sustained, or has the consumer changed again because now shared mobility is back? So, a lot of cycles have happened in the way consumers want and need cars. Do you think that has there been a lot of change and shift? How hard is it to get the consumers into the showroom?
So you're talking in terms of revival for the auto industry,
Revival
right?
for the automotive industry, or the consumer's mindset particularly. I mean, is he still looking at the car as a need-based, that, after I'm shaken after the pandemic, I need my own mobility?
I think it's
or is
both.
That changing?
I think it's both need-based and want-based. Depends on the individual. But as far as the revival is concerned, I think we are still looking at a good amount of time to get the demand as what it used to be. So maybe another year or 2 years at least. That's what I feel.
See, I believe any commodity, they go through a phase. Like at some point in time, a scooter was a luxury also. So a car was a luxury at some point in time. So when it's a luxury, the volumes are less. As soon as the luxury changes to need-based, the volumes increase. And then it becomes a want. I mean, you just want a car because somebody else has bought a car, some friend of yours. You may not need it, but you still want it. You still want to own it. So during the pandemic, it was need-based. And what need-based does is that if you need something, you're not looking at the price. You're looking because you need it. So that helped us during the pandemic, because most of us, I think, didn't have to discount much because it was need-based buying and the person was quite desperate to take a car. Again, now it's coming back to wants. Now the exchange penetration is an indicator where it is increasing and showing that, yes, it's become a want. There are a large number of OEMs also now come in. The penetration of car in the country is very low compared globally. So there are every indicator which says that the volumes will go up. Earlier, when the volume went up, the production capacities did not. So there used to be a big waiting list. Today, I think that's of the past. There is enough production capacity with enough players in the market. And if the volumes go up, there will be enough supplies coming back after these, this Ukraine war goes off and the shortage of semiconductors, they go away. But we feel that the automotive segment today in India is bound to go up. The growth story continues in India, and we're going to face back the olden times where the demand curve will go up, but it will be in a different environment where there will be not one or two players. There are 10, 12, 13 players who are going to, supply to feed the demand.
Thank you so much, gentlemen. This has been an amazingly insightful conversation. Thank you so much for listening in and tuning in to us. As you've seen, they've spoken about the fact that they are very hopeful that the Indian automotive industry will bounce back. The current figures only reflect the shortages, not the demand. Thank you so much for tuning in.